You've probably noticed this before without realizing it. Two apartments can have the exact same layout, the same square footage, and sometimes even similar furniture, yet one of them looks polished and elevated, while the other somehow feels cheap. Not dirty, not messy, just slightly off in a way that's hard to explain. Most people assume the difference is money. They think the better-looking apartment must have designer furniture, expensive renovations, or a huge decorating budget. But in reality, what separates an expensive-looking apartment from a cheap-looking one usually comes down to a handful of visual mistakes that quietly downgrade a space. Once you notice these things, you start seeing them everywhere. You'll see them in rental listings, apartment tours, and even in beautifully furnished homes that still somehow feel unfinished. The good news is that these problems are incredibly easy to fix, and most of the solutions are renter-friendly upgrades that take minutes rather than days. So in this video, we're going to look at 5 surprisingly common things that instantly make an apartment look cheaper than it actually is, along with simple ways to correct them so the entire space feels more intentional and elevated. And if you enjoy practical upgrades that make everyday spaces feel a little more refined, consider liking the video and subscribing. It helps the channel grow and lets me know you want to see more content like this. Now, let's start with the biggest offender in almost every rental. Cheap mistake number 1: harsh overhead lighting. Lighting is easily the fastest way to make an apartment feel warm and sophisticated or cold and inexpensive. Most rental apartments come with the same setup, a single ceiling fixture positioned in the center of the room. The problem is that this type of lighting is usually very bright, very cool in color, and very flat. When it's the only light source in the space, it creates harsh shadows and removes any sense of depth in the room. Interior designers almost never rely on a single overhead light. Instead, they layer lighting throughout the room so the space feels softer and more dimensional. A floor lamp in the corner, a table lamp on a console, or even a small accent light on a shelf can completely change how a room feels once the overhead light is turned off. Layered lighting spreads warmth around the room rather than blasting it from one point above your head. The result is a space that immediately feels calmer and more intentional. Even modest apartments start to feel more elevated once lighting comes from multiple directions rather than a single ceiling fixture. The great thing about lighting upgrades is that they are incredibly renter-friendly. Plug-in wall sconces, rechargeable picture lights, and slim floor lamps can all add warmth to a room without requiring any electrical work or permanent installation. Simply adding 2 or 3 softer light sources instantly changes the atmosphere of the entire apartment. Cheap mistake number 2: empty walls. Another thing that can make an apartment feel unfinished is having completely empty walls. This happens a lot in rentals because many people hesitate to hang anything, either because they're worried about damaging the walls or because they plan to move eventually. While that hesitation is understandable, large blank walls can make a space feel temporary and impersonal. When walls are empty, furniture often looks smaller and disconnected from the rest of the room. Designers avoid this by creating visual anchors that help ground the space. Large artwork, mirrors, or gallery arrangements add visual weight to a wall so the room feels balanced. One common mistake people make is hanging art that's too small for the wall. A tiny frame floating in the middle of a large wall can actually make the space feel cheaper. Larger pieces or grouped frames tend to work better because they fill the visual space and create a sense of intention. Fortunately, renter-friendly hanging solutions have improved dramatically. Adhesive hooks and removable hanging systems can hold surprisingly large frames without leaving permanent marks on the wall. Once you add artwork or mirrors in the right places, the apartment suddenly feels styled rather than temporary. Cheap mistake number 3: entryway clutter. The next issue appears the moment someone walks through the front door. Entryways often become accidental clutter zones where shoes pile up, bags end up on the floor, and packages stack against the wall. Even if the rest of the apartment looks great, a messy entry instantly creates a cheap first impression. Interior designers deal with this by creating a simple landing zone near the entrance. This usually includes a narrow console table, a slim shoe cabinet, or a small set of wall hooks for bags and jackets. The goal isn't to fill the space with furniture, but to give everyday items a defined place to live. Once shoes, keys, and bags have designated storage, The clutter disappears, and the entry suddenly feels calm and organized. Even a small cabinet only a few inches deep can dramatically improve the appearance of the space. Because the entry is the first area people see, organizing it has an outsized impact on how the entire apartment feels. When the entrance looks intentional and tidy, the rest of the space automatically feels more elevated. Cheap mistake number 4. The wrong rug size. Rug size is another detail that can quietly downgrade a living room without people realizing why the space feels slightly off. Many apartments use rugs that are simply too small for the furniture arrangement. A small rug floating under the coffee table might seem fine at first glance, but it actually makes the room feel fragmented. Interior designers typically use rugs to visually connect furniture pieces together. Ideally, the rug should be large enough so at least the front legs of the sofa and chairs rest on it. This creates a unified seating area that feels grounded and cohesive. When the rug is too small, the furniture appears scattered across the room instead of forming a defined space. That lack of visual connection can make even nice furniture feel less intentional. The easiest solution is to size up. Choosing a rug one size larger than you originally planned often transforms the entire room. Suddenly, the seating area feels anchored, the layout looks deliberate, and the space appears more balanced overall. Cheap mistake number 5. Builder-grade bathroom details. Bathrooms are another area where apartments often look the most generic. Many rentals come with basic accessories, such as thin plastic shower curtains, mismatched soap bottles, and simple chrome fixtures that lack personality. Individually, these details seem small, but together they create a bathroom that feels unfinished and temporary. Replacing just a few of these elements can dramatically improve the overall look of the space. A fabric shower curtain with texture immediately looks more refined than thin plastic. Matching soap dispensers instead of store packaging creates a cleaner, more intentional vanity area. Adding a small tray or a decorative container on the counter can also help organize everyday items while making the space feel styled. These changes take very little time, yet they can transform the bathroom from something that feels purely functional into something that looks thoughtfully designed. Final thought. What's interesting about all 5 of these things is that none of them require renovation or permanent changes. They're simply adjustments to lighting, scale, organization, and small visual details that shape how a space feels. When those elements work together, even a modest apartment can feel calm, balanced, and expensive. But when they're missing, the space can feel slightly off no matter how nice the furniture might be. So if your apartment ever feels like it's missing something, it usually isn't about buying more furniture or spending more money. It's about paying attention to the subtle design signals that shape how a room is perceived. Once those details are in place, the entire apartment starts to feel more intentional and more elevated.